After 7 long years away, I came back to my $3 million cabin, only to find no trespassing signs nailed to my own gate. That's when I realized the HOA had turned my home into their battlefield, and I was done playing nice. When we drove up the gravel road toward our Montana lake cabin, my heart pounded. The wooden gates we'd built together now had red, "No trespassing" signs. Each board was nailed so deep it looked personal. My wife, Laura, gasped, her hand over her mouth. "David, that's our property," she whispered, tears forming. Standing there was Karen Hollings, the HOA president, in a cream blazer, clipboard tight in her grip, like she owned the entire neighborhood. "Before we go on, please, where are you watching from and what time is it right now? I want to see how many families, parents, and neighbors are feeling this story across the country tonight. Your comment helps this message reach more people who've faced unfair HOA rules too." "You can't be here," she snapped. "This property's been abandoned for years. The HOA took over." I laughed, calm but furious. "Abandoned? We paid every tax, every year. Check your records." Karen smirked. "Not my problem. We posted warnings. This land's under new regulation." Her words cut deep. This was my father's cabin, worth $3 million, our family's peace after decades of work. And she dared to call it hers. I felt my wife's trembling hand on my arm. "Let's just go inside," she whispered. But the padlock glared back. The air grew heavier with every second of silence between us and Karen's smug grin. That's when a thought crossed my mind. I'd been away too long. 7 years was enough time for snakes to crawl in. Karen's voice echoed behind me. "If you enter, I'll call the sheriff." I turned slowly, locking eyes with her. "Do that," I said coldly. "But remember, this land remembers its owner." And when I stepped closer to the gate, she finally realized this wasn't over. 7 years earlier, Laura and I left Montana for California. Our daughter Emily had just married, and we wanted to support her growing career. She'd married Tyler, a kind-hearted engineer who treated her like gold. When their twins arrived, our hearts melted completely. But California's charm faded quickly. The HOA drama we'd escaped in Montana found us again, this time through city landlords and endless fees. When Tyler's company moved them to Florida temporarily, we followed, just for a while, to help with the newborns. We rented a small beach house, simple and quiet. But I always thought of the lake, the tall pines, and my father's voice saying, "Protect what's yours." We still paid for everything in Montana: taxes, utilities, maintenance, through online banking. I thought that was enough. But I was wrong. HOAs like Karen's prey on silence, on absence, and on good people minding their own business. Back then, Karen had just joined the board, a retired realtor with too much time and a thirst for control. She'd once smiled at us during block parties, always asking about our plans, pretending to care. Now she had turned our kindness into an opening, a way to claim what wasn't hers. The decision to return home was supposed to be joyful, a fresh start after years of helping our daughter. But as I stood before those red signs, all I could think of was my father's words echoing again. Some people don't steal with hands, they steal with rules. 15 minutes after Karen's threat, a sheriff's car pulled up, tires crunching against gravel. A tall man stepped out, hand resting on his belt. "Morning, folks," he said cautiously. "Got a call about trespassing." His eyes shifted between me and Karen. Karen stepped forward, voice full of fake concern. "Officer, they're breaking HOA policy. This property was deemed inactive and is under HOA review." I handed him my ID and property deed copy, still folded neatly in my jacket pocket. "Sir, I own this land. Paid every dime for it." The sheriff unfolded the papers, eyes scanning. His brow furrowed. "This shows ownership still under your name, Mr. Turner." Karen's face drained of color. "There must be a mistake," she barked. "No mistake," I said. "The only mistake is thinking paperwork disappears when you wish it to." The sheriff looked uneasy. "Seems like a civil issue, ma'am. Not criminal." He turned to me. "You can remove the signs if you wish." Karen's eyes flamed. "You'll regret this," she hissed, storming off. Laura squeezed my hand, whispering, "She's not done." I stared at the house beyond the trees, our cabin still beautiful, though lonely. As I ripped down the first "No Trespassing" sign, the wood creaked like a sigh of relief. But I knew it wasn't victory, it was the first shot fired in a silent war. And Karen Hollings never walked away quietly. When I finally opened the door, a rush of dust and pine air greeted us. Memories clung to the walls like ghosts of laughter. Laura stepped in slowly, her fingers tracing the old family photos on the mantel. "She tried to erase us," she whispered. I nodded, every corner of the house whispering stories of our youth, birthday dinners, winters by the fire, and Emily's drawings taped to the fridge. But something felt off. There were fresh footprints in the dust, small ones, recent. "Someone's been inside," I muttered, kneeling near the fireplace where ashes looked too new to be old. Laura's voice trembled. "Do you think she's been using it?" The thought burned in my chest. "We'll find out." That night, I checked the outdoor cameras we'd installed years ago. The feed had been wiped clean last spring. But one old drive remained untouched. I watched it carefully and saw her, Karen, entering with a clipboard, inspecting, taking pictures. She'd even brought realtors with her, smiling as if she owned it. Laura gasped. She was planning to sell it. I felt my jaw tighten. Then it's time she learns what happens when you trespass on another man's home. The next morning, I called a lawyer friend in Helena. "Get ready," I told him. "We're going to remind the HOA who signs the deeds around here." The HOA meeting was held in the town hall that Saturday. Karen stood at the front, arms crossed, chin high. Her followers, half a dozen retirees and neighbors, watched her like she was royalty. When I entered, silence filled the room. Laura sat beside me, calm but firm. Karen cleared her throat. "Mr. Turner," she began coldly, "you've been absent for 7 years. Your land fell under the HOA's maintenance clause." I leaned forward. "We paid every tax. No clause overrides state property law." She smirked. "We voted to reclaim it for community development. Majority rules." "Majority," I repeated slowly, "doesn't override ownership." I pulled a folder from my jacket, tax records, proof of payment, and the old HOA charter itself. Karen's confident smile cracked as I read, "Property rights remain with the owner unless proven abandoned by court order." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's hands trembled as she stammered, "That clause was outdated." I stood tall. "So was your sense of decency." Laura touched my arm. "Let's go," she whispered, but I turned to the room. "If any of you sign this theft, I'll see you in court." As we walked out, the whispers followed us like wind through trees. Karen's voice cracked behind me, "You'll regret this, Turner." But she didn't see my smile. I already had a plan that would make her regret ever posting those signs. That night, I made calls, lawyers, surveyors, even local reporters. I wanted Emily called from Florida, her voice full of concern. "Dad, don't let this stress you. You and Mom worked too hard for that cabin." I smiled hearing the twins' laughter in the background. "Sweetheart, sometimes peace has to be defended." The next morning, I invited the news crew to film the property inspection. Cameras rolled as surveyors confirmed the boundaries, clearly marked under Turner Family Holdings. Karen stood across the street, red-faced, trying to argue with the journalists. "He's lying. They left. It's abandoned." But the footage of her trespassing, courtesy of my old cameras, played right there on a laptop screen. The crew turned toward her. "Ma'am, care to explain?" She froze. Laura whispered beside me, "Now the town knows." I just smiled. "Not yet. This is just the warm-up." Because the next step wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about teaching her that some rules bite back harder than they're written. A week later, Karen received a certified letter from my attorney, 3 pages of legal fire that demanded public retraction and damages for defamation. Laura read the copy aloud at breakfast. "She'll explode when she reads this." "She already did," I chuckled. "Now she'll drown in her own paperwork." 2 days later, my lawyer called. "David, she's panicking. She wants to negotiate quietly." Quiet, I said. She made it public. She can apologize publicly. The next HOA bulletin arrived with a statement, half-hearted, defensive, full of excuses. Clerical misunderstanding, it said. But I wasn't done. I hosted a neighborhood cookout, open to everyone, right on our property. Dozens showed up, even those who once believed her lies. Karen arrived too, standing awkwardly at the edge. I walked up, holding out a plate. Care for a burger? She glared, trembling. You humiliated me. No, Karen, I said calmly. You humiliated yourself when you thought power meant ownership. For the first time, her eyes dropped. Laura smiled beside me. Feels good to be home, she whispered. But deep down, I knew there was still one last card to play, the one that would end this feud forever. That night, my lawyer called again. David, turns out Karen's been using HOA funds for personal landscaping, over $60,000 unaccounted for. I leaned back, grinning. So that's her real motive. He continued, if you want, we can submit it to the state HOA compliance board. I didn't hesitate. Do it. A week later, investigators arrived quietly. Papers were seized, records copied, and Karen's reputation collapsed overnight. Neighbors started whispering. Some apologized. Others just avoided her entirely. Laura looked at me one evening, watching the sunset over the lake. You could have just let it go, she said softly. I smiled. I let go the moment we proved our right. The rest was justice. That weekend, we reopened the cabin officially. Emily and Tyler flew in with the twins, laughter echoing through the hall again. When I saw them running along the dock, sunlight on their hair, I felt peace return. But somewhere across the lake, a for sale sign appeared, on Karen's house. I watched from the porch, coffee in hand, and whispered to myself, some lessons are worth every year of waiting. When the twins ran toward me yelling, Grandpa, my heart nearly burst. After 7 years, the cabin was alive again, filled with family, warmth, and truth. Tyler joined me by the fire. Heard what happened with the HO, he said, chuckling. You handled it better than any courtroom drama. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is just reclaiming what's yours. Emily hugged Laura tightly. Mom, this place is beautiful. I can't believe she almost took it. Laura nodded, smiling through tears. She tried. But this land knows its family. Later that evening, neighbors dropped by with food and laughter. The tension that once divided us melted away in the glow of the campfire. Someone joked, David, maybe you should run for HOA president. Everyone laughed, but I didn't say no. Because part of me knew this story wasn't just about land. It was about standing your ground when the world thinks you've gone quiet. And as the stars reflected on the lake, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, belonging. Karen's house remained dark across the water, her empire gone. And for the first